Hello and welcome to my channel on human design. Today I'm going to look at the third line process. I find it very funny that when you think about the third line and you think about the trial and error and you think about the pain of breaking bonds and you think about the anarchist and people go, yeah, I don't really want to have third lines in me. And then you tell them that the third line is the material line. And it's designed to break through to mastery on the material plane. Then they're busy looking at their charts going, oh, how many third lines have I got? I want some more. So let's just look at the process, shall we? So the first thing I want to say to you is, where can you get the resources to understand what the third line is about? Because I'm going to bring in some things now that I am going to get from the source, but you can also do your own research, and I encourage you to do it. So if you have a profile that is a 1-3 or a 3-5 or a 3-6 or a 6-3, then you have a third line, and you are here to embody that third line in your life. In the profile videos that I've got available on my website, you can see previews in my YouTube channel. You're going to get all the fundamental keynotes for that profile. And there are fundamental third line keynotes that are mentioned. So things like adaptability and breaking bonds and trial and error and all the things that I've talked about. But if you really want to understand the third line and you're not a third line, then you need to look at the Rave I Ching and look at all the third lines. There are 64 keywords for the third line related to the gates. So if you do your research, you'll get a bigger feeling of what the third line is about. Oh, and the Rave I Ching, you can get, there's a link in the descriptions below to get your own copy of the Rave I Ching. And if you're interested in human design, you got to do that. All right, let's get on with it. What I want to talk about is some of those keynotes that are not generally used, and talk about the process. Now, in the thumbnail, you'll see the sign warning bumpy road, and there is a bumpy road if you've got a third line. You never know quite what you're going to bump into. Your direction can suddenly be changed by a meeting with a stranger, you know, that you were not expecting, and suddenly you'll find yourself going into a completely different life. And that's part of the process. When we think about the third line, we think about the analogy of the house, and there's a third line, you know, at the ceiling banging through to get through to the next level. It's getting through to the beginning of the transpersonal process to be able to meet the other. And the third line is there to break out of what the situation is if it doesn't work. We're here to discover what doesn't work, and we gain experience through discovering that. It's not a comfortable process. There is this keynote of shame also, and especially in the early life, when we're learning the way the world works. We're here to understand the way the world works at a material level. And there is this level of mastery that comes if you fully go into the experience, find out where it doesn't work, and mutate it. You know, the whole point of the third line is to be able to mutate, to be able to adapt to whatever the situation is, and then to mutate beyond that if the situation doesn't work. So that's an important point. Take on the keynote, or my advice is to take on the keynote of the third line of patience. You know, a lot of third lines make their mistakes because they're impatient, and they get the anarchist and they just go, I'm just going to break the bond here, or, you know, I'm not going to do it that way, I'm going to do it this way. Yeah, well, you need to understand what the situation is first. And through negative experiences and through suddenly realizing that everything's gone wrong and it was down to you because of whatever you did or didn't do, you get to learn to be more patient, to actually be open to whatever's going on initially. And that's important. Doesn't mean you're going to put up with it if it doesn't work, but it does mean you need to immerse yourself in whatever it is, whether that's learning something new, whether that's being in a new environment, whether it's being in a new group of people, whether it's being in a new business, whether it's being in a new relationship. There is this necessity for the third line to immerse themselves in the experience of whatever it is and really get to know it first. So patience is important. It's also important to understand that the third line has this adaptation to it. It can adapt. It is very resilient. If you've got it in the body, if you've got the third line, if you're a 6-3 or a 1-3, you have a third line body, you have more of a resilient body. And there is a certain resilience with the third line and the ability to adapt that can get us through all kinds of situations that the other profiles would find extremely difficult. And talking of the other profiles, there's something that the third line has that they don't have, and it's a double-edged sword. And this is the ability for all third lines to have a go. Okay, it's not working, so we're going to try something different. We don't know if it's going to work, but if we don't have a go, we will never know. And we'll be stuck and we'll be held in something that isn't comfortable for us, that isn't working at a material level, that isn't working in terms of who we are within whatever that situation may be. And it's one of those things when I'm looking at other profiles and having done so many readings over the last 25 years and taught so many different students about human design, I have seen so many of the other profiles basically getting stuck without the ability to adapt. And so they can get trapped easier. So our ability as a third line to have a go, even if it doesn't work, is necessary for the other profiles. It's part of what we can bring to the group. It's part of what we can bring to other people, that we do have this ability to push the boundaries. We have the ability to bring in something new. Once we understand what's going on, once we've had the patience to really take in what is going on first. So that's important. Another thing that is really important for all third lines in order to get through their journey in life, one, you need a good sense of humor, basically. If you can't laugh at yourself as a third line, it's not going to be an easy journey. You have to go, hey, I messed up again because of this or whatever. But you have to learn through the experience. And people think third lines, bumping into things, that they're clumsy. We're not clumsy. We're not. We might bump into something once, but we won't, we know that. We learn from that. If you can learn from your experience, you are going to adapt. If you're able to learn from your experience, you're going to become a very useful person for other people. If you can't learn from your experience, then yeah, life becomes very pessimistic. I know a lot of very pessimistic third lines that have not adapted. So it is important to continue to adapt and to continue to push at what doesn't work, to get rid of the obstacles in front of you, even if it means going alone. And this is another point I want to emphasize in this video. Throughout the third line, again and again, the lines read, or the descriptions of the gates in the third line will read alienation, or the energy to go it alone if necessary. So that's the other thing. In our tendency to want to adapt and mutate and bring something new into the world, we will go alone if we have to. And that's okay. That's not to say, it's going to work, but it might. There is a lot of discovery to be found in the third line process. Yes, we get our knocks and we get our bruises and we get our, things that go terribly wrong. And we get things that we discover that go really right, that break through to new territory, that actually bring things to us that are in alignment with us because we were prepared to have a go, because we were able to adapt and then shift. And because we are able to go it alone if we have to. And sometimes it's the only way. It's the only way sometimes. And you all know what I mean by that. You're creating a new course, for example, that no one else has done. And it gives you the pleasure to create something new, to bring something new out. But you don't know if it's going to work. And it may be a brilliant course. I saw a 1-3 post something recently on Facebook. They posted it at, I think, the 25th of April, and the course is on the 5th of May. Like, the course could be brilliant, but they're going to have to learn. You need to give people enough time to read the post and check their diaries and calendars and make the space to come. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So the other side of the third line is also to be open to hearing what other people have to say. The third line is here to bump into the people that will provide the information that they need at that point. There is a certain randomness in the third line process, or at least it appears random. And there is a serendipity and all kinds of magic going on beneath the surface, but it can appear very random, and we need to be open to that. We need to embrace that. We need to be excited by the adventure of that, because after all, that's what makes life interesting. That's what builds the experience in the third line. But I also know that if you keep going, if you have that energy to have a go, you will be rewarded. And yes, there's always a price to pay if you get it wrong. And it's usually a material price, or often a material price. There's a cost of mistakes. That doesn't need to stop you. That doesn't need to destroy you. Sometimes devastating experiences happen to a third line. Usually we have this energy to bounce back up. But if you can't bounce back up by yourself, then you're going to need an alliance with other people. And you must be open to that as well, to be able to go it alone, but also to be able to align with others who are going in the same direction as you. Both these qualities are in the third line. And talking of the third line process, I saw an interview the other day with Elon Musk, and he's been putting out a lot of concerns about AI, and that we need to have an overseeing regulatory body to keep an eye on what's going on, because it's expanding at such a rate. And the interviewer said to him, well, didn't you get involved with Chat GPT, the chatbot, and got all that going, which is now really coming out there and having some disturbing side effects? I mean, they're teaching AI to lie, and Elon is a 3-5, and he goes, yes, I did do that. It was like, now he's got to adapt to create something that is more in line with his views and with his values than what he originally created. He's got to do it again. He's got to adapt. He's got to take it to another level. He's got to deal with the knowledge that he's put that into the Chat GPT into the world, and it may have negative effects, So we all have to deal with making mistakes. And of course, we don't know what the mistakes are until we do. And we do our best, and then, didn't realize it was going to go there. And when it does, well, then you have to deal with it. The power to deal with stuff. That's the third line. So for all you third lines out there, I want you to know that I really get what you have to go through. I am a third line myself, and I want to assure you that there are ways where you can move beyond whatever the restrictions are. There are ways to live a really happy and contented life as a third line. And it's not all trial and error. If you learn from the error, you don't have to relearn it. It becomes part of your experience, and it is our rich experience that we can bring to others because we've done it, because we've seen it doesn't work that way. And we found a way that it does work. We found a way of getting through things when they go wrong because we're used to it. We're almost prepared for it. If you get through the early part of life, you get to know, you get to trust the fact that you can get through things that could be very, very difficult for others and keep moving, to keep mutating, to keep opening up the life, your own life and the life of others can be a great blessing for everyone involved. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, please like and subscribe and share. That would be very good. And I will see you again very soon with something completely different. Bye for now.